Hello, we're back. Okay, so I'm gonna read one of mine because I don't really know if it's enough time. I don't know how long these videos should be or anything. But I have been using like better editing for not like for the video for my writing. Um, so there's a lot of stuff where like I take a lot of notes and then I kind of put it into stanzas. A lot of that is usually my writing, but because I'm wanting to create a collection. I feel like I need to do some better editing, like including how it looks. And this is one of them that I did that. So this is called Grace. And this was just an idea that came to me. Also, I'm considering starting to do them like almost all my writing in both English and Spanish. Um, but I don't know. I think I'll do like my next one like that because I did one that I have in English and Spanish. If I feel like I haven't been talking for very long, then we'll do a second one. Okay. So many use a diagnosis as an excuse. When I was diagnosed autistic, it transformed how I viewed myself. It opened my eyes. I began to see through a different lens. I had to confront certain truths about myself, traits I once viewed as virtues. Being blunt, perceptive of human patterns, ruthlessly honest, and hungry for justice. These were natural tendencies, not evil in themselves, but I was wielding them without grace. I struck mindlessly, hurting others, hurting myself. I grew tired. I no longer wanted to be that character in the story of others. But more importantly, I wanted to stop hurting myself. The way I exposed truth to others, I turned that same sharpness inward, attacking myself harder, harsher, until I could no longer bear it. And yet, I knew that this was a gift from God. So, I surrendered my nature. I asked for His mercy, and I met myself with grace. I was overcome, undone by the power of His grace and mercy. Now, I must meet others with that same grace. I must speak with mercy. Being gentle doesn't mean being ineffective. Gentleness refines, grace refines. Now, I wonder if I should have it as grace refines as the title, but I just have it as grace right now. Um, I think this came about because I was talking to my brother and I was telling him, I think I even have the note in my phone because I don't think I have it, the notes. Because if you look on the blogger, I have my notes usually, but it's usually like the rough draft of the poem. It's very few times like, it's very few. Here we go. This is a different one. I haven't written this one yet. I think for me, I was a late diagnosis. I was diagnosed in like my mid-20s, mid to late, really, honestly. And I always knew there was something different about me. And there's a lot of things that like cause a lot of rejection and people to kind of like abandon me or to kind of leave me to the side. A big one being kind of the way I was very honest. And like I couldn't understand. I don't have a big thing like sensory things don't bother me too much. But I lack a lot of the social understanding. Like, and it's very weird, which I think a lot of women, I mean, just from what I've seen, we tend to be like that. Like we're able to really do well in society. um, do well. And we do all the things like we need to do, but then we're like a little bit off, but not everyone will notice because you kind of seem normal. And then I was very good at talking. Um, like me talking here, it's not any different. Like I've talked in front of groups, and I've been doing that since I was young. Like I used to preach when I was in the Protestant church, and then even when I converted, it through my conversion, I've been allowed to give talks and been like a speaker for different things, right? So, and people would be like, "Oh, so like, what do you mean socially inept?" Right? But there's a lot of things that when I decided to like I didn't use when I finally got told I was autistic, like I got the diagnosis, like I went through the 3 hour thing. I cried because for me it was like, okay, like now we have a name for this. And then I began to look a little bit deeper of what it means to really be like an autistic individual, right? Because it is a spectrum, so there are just certain things that affect you. And then I allowed myself to accept certain things about me, good and bad, and then realize like maybe we need to like be working on some things that I had previously really not thought that needed to be worked on. Um, and what I mean by that is, I always was a very honest person and I'm very direct. And for me, that's a very positive thing because like it's good to be direct, it's good to be honest, it's good to like say the truth. So I never saw that as a bad thing because I'm like, well, isn't that the point? Like, aren't you supposed to be honest? And then I realized like that's really like a symptom of my autism, like where I become very, my black and white thinking becomes like almost extreme, where I'm like, I don't understand, like, how can I be doing this? And like, I become, and like more than I judge people because I always had like expectations. It was like, and this was the thing that my brother told me, and I was like, I feel bad sometimes because I was really like not gracious with these people. I didn't say that. I was just like, it was like a whole conversation. And he was like, yeah, but like, do you not remember like how terrible you were to yourself? And he's like, the thing is, like, because of how you are, and because you're like, this is what it is, and you're telling people, and you're like, wake up, look at that. He's like, you only did that also more to yourself. He's like, and you were never satisfied with yourself, and you were never good enough, and you were never happy enough, and you could never do any good, and you were never going to be proud of your accomplishments. And that was something you like believed in. And like, we're not talking about mediocrity or anything like that, but he was like, nothing was ever good. You could never be, you knew you had good traits, but you were never like, okay, that's okay. No, it was like, no, actually, it was never okay. And you were never okay. Like, and I never really met people with that. I was more like, hey, like, I think you're trying to work on this. This is how you should do it. And like, maybe you should be honest with yourself. And like, I notice patterns in people, and I'm like, why is no one telling anyone this? Because it's obvious that we are all noticing it. And so I told him, like, now it's crazy. Like, I don't know if it's that I've matured or what it is. And he was like, no, it's because now you meet people with grace. And like, that's what I wrote here. And they said, and then my brother said, you met yourself with grace. So now you meet other people with grace too. And just because like I've had a period in my life where a lot of things that people have told me in these years, a lot of way that people have reacted to me, people close to me and far from me. If I was in that other stage, I think I would have been mortified and just convinced myself I'm more worthless and more everything. And I think I would have judged these people and said things I didn't have to say and brought things to their attention that I don't really have a place to be bringing to their attention. And not in the sense of like you let people do whatever they want, but like, no offense, you can't just like attack people. Because if you don't meet them first with love and you aren't, and these people don't think you care, they don't really care what you have to say. Like if people do not think like, hey, this person's looking out for me, because even when they do feel that way, they still don't want to listen to you. So if you are not even worried about that, then like you're really not helping yourself out in wanting to help them out. And I think I realized that because I had to give myself grace, and I had to be like, oh yeah, like, no, you can't do it because I can't. And I can't be perfect because I can't. And like, I have these patterns that are detrimental and that make me a bad person. and that's okay. And I'm a sinner, and that's okay. And not in the sense that I'm excusing myself or I'm letting things be okay. But a lot of people that excuse themselves and this and that, they're not actually like being okay with the fact that they're a problem. They're actually not. They're just not confronting the problem at all. They're just not even thinking about it. They're just not even worried about that. That's not even a thing on their mind. Versus for me, it was always like this whole giant thing. And then I had to be like, actually, no. Actually, no, you can't. You can't. And in that I can't, I have to rely on God. I have to surrender to God. I have to get over myself. And that was like, wow. So if I can understand that, and I had to meet myself with grace, and I had to be like, yeah, you're just a sinner. And yeah, guess what? I don't even know why God did it for you, why Jesus chose to do that for you. I don't. And this is me talking to myself. Okay? I don't know. And, I'm probably not worth it because I keep messing up and I keep doing that and I'm going to keep doing it because I'm not perfect. And guess what? It's okay because like God knew that. Christ knew that. The Holy Spirit knew that. Because if that wasn't the integral part, then we wouldn't need his grace. We wouldn't need his mercy. We wouldn't need his sacrifice. And if I keep trying to figure it out and trying to make everything right and blah, 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 you miss. And then all those opportunities where you were really meant to like change somebody's life, you can't because you fucking stabbed them. Ooh, excuse my language. But you stabbed them and you weren't supposed to stab them. You're supposed to clean the wound. And like, yeah, maybe the sword was really hot. And so when you put it in, it did infect. But now they have a wound and they have a burn and they're just more upset. Versus when you sit there and you say, hey, I'm going to tend this wound with you. So you do. And it's actually more painful and more uncomfortable. And you still get rejected and people will still abandon you and they will still betray you. But you did it now full of grace and full of mercy. So it doesn't matter because it's okay now. Because it was never about you being the one to help. It was about the person who got the help. And when I finally accepted that, it was like, well, because I tend to be one of those people that like I get very frustrated with community. The faith part is not hard for me. Like the understanding that God is amazing and that He created things, like that was never the hurdle I had to leap over. Mine was always like, what is going on? Like with these dynamics, or what is going on? And not so much in a judgmental way that I'm like, talking to the homegirls and like, oh, look at this person, like what they're doing. No, I was always just like, I don't understand. Because like we had rules. Like when I was a kid, my gosh, I just I think this is what kind of made me very rebellious and like why I have all these open gaps now because I was really trying to follow everything the best I could and like understanding how I was messing up in every single way. But like it wasn't actually leading me to like refinement or to having mercy on me or to, it was just like more and more piling on me because I just knew I was not good. I was not amounting to anything. I was always messing up and I was following these rules and like nothing good was coming from me following the rules because everybody else I was seen as very strange and abnormal for how I lived my like up to my teenage years, honestly. Like up until high school. Like and not like strange, like oh, she's just like a weird Christian girl. No, like even within like the Christian community, like I had so many things being told to me because I wouldn't do the normal things. But in my mind, like I understood that it was normal and I didn't judge these people for doing what they were doing because actually I felt like they're probably doing the normal thing. I just felt like I couldn't do it because like I had understood that we weren't supposed to do certain things. And like I didn't think I was better or worse. Like that's the thing is I think the and that's what my brother was telling me. He was like, yeah, like the problem is you could understand people and that's always been something that you can do, but you were just mean to yourself and you just never had mercy for yourself. You never had grace for yourself. You had guilt, you had disappointment, you had rebellion, but you didn't know how to meet yourself with grace. And so when I experienced this immense grace, that I really felt like the culmination of it within that first year, like when I did my first communion, and it was an overwhelming spiritual experience because it was not from people. And so then I was like, wow. So then it helps me meet people with grace. It's just even now hard for me sometimes because I feel so like confided, like not confided. I feel so stuck, and I feel like I'm never gonna do well. And I think sometimes I just have to be like, no, you're not. Like move on. And yeah, but that's where this poem come from. So I'm not perfect, and sometimes I'm still judgmental towards myself and towards others. And I try to be careful now, but I really feel like it's been such an immense change because I just experienced an overwhelming grace because that's really what it was. An out of this world mercy. I know a better word, but I can't think of it right now, and I would like to finish so I don't talk for too long. Um, that like once I experience that, it's like, yeah, well, yeah. There's nothing left for me to do. But to then when I interact with people to exude that. Because to experience that so late in the game, which is kind of sad, actually, in like my faith in my journey of faith, because I just feel like no one explained it to me. And I don't think anyone really, maybe they did in a different way. And maybe I just accepted it. And maybe I just heard it. And maybe I just put it into practice. But experiencing that for real, it's like, yeah, hard to be terrible. It's really hard to be terrible now because I really was not worth anything that Christ did for me. And then he did it. And he does it again and again because every time I sin and every time I need to repent, and even though he knows, like, girl, you didn't even mean that, still he makes that decision to be like, yeah, but come here. Every time I meet him, every time I'm broken, he's like, come here. How could I not, when I'm interacting with people who are potentially just representations of him, how could I not? As much as the human in me or whatever in me wants to be like, these people, how can I not? Like, who am I? Like, you just gotta really get over it. And that's really just grace. And it's grace that just like flows through you. Because it's not even me. It's just like, I just was like, oh. And then God was like, perfect. Finally, let's go.